introduction from you or from me?
From me.
Okay.
Hello. Welcome to the PHONEWORD Forum on Wednesday, November the 26th, 2014. It's 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to be talking with Jaromir Talir of CZ.NIC about the FRED registry, the FRED ENUM registry, and we have some folks joining us. Hello.
Hi, this is Henning.
Hi, Henning.
Hi.
Welcome. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, perfectly.
Okay, you're breaking up a little bit, but I was just doing a little introduction. So, who's joining us is Henning Schultz-Rennie, who is with Columbia University, also with the Federal Communications Commission, the United States Federal Communications Commission, and has been instrumental in the numbering testbed for the all-IP transition. And we very much welcome you today, Henning. And we also have with us Jaromir Talir of CZ.NIC, who is the chief architect of FRED, which is the free registry for ENUM and Domains. I'm also expecting Peter Segede to join us from Tarina and ENUM.net, and I'll just do a brief introduction of Peter so that when he joins us we can kind of continue the flow and keep us on a timeline here. But Peter Segede is the project manager for ENUM, which is a global consortium of academic and research institutions around the world, and they are ushering in an ENUM, a global ENUM platform for connecting academic and research institutions around the world, and they are very much in the ENUM end-user opt-in ENUM conversation. We might have a few other folks joining us, but today is almost like a semi-holiday because we're the day before Thanksgiving, so attendance might be a little light. So anything either of you would like to say or questions you might have before we jump into Jaromir's presentation?
Nothing for me.
I'm looking forward to a presentation.
Okay, great. So Jaromir, I'm going to turn it over to you. Is there anything else you would like to, okay, great. Here's, I believe Peter's joining us. So.
Hello. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
Peter.
Guys?
Welcome. I just did a brief introduction of you, Tarina, and ENUM so that we could kind of continue the flow here. Henning Schultz-Rennie is with us, and Jaromir Talir of CZ.NIC is with us, and it's my pleasure to introduce the three of you. I'm not sure the three of you have met, but I consider the three of you to be key figures in the current contemporary ENUM space and end-user opt-in ENUM conversation. So first of all, I'm delighted to have the three of you with us today. This is being recorded, and it will be available for immediate playback. So I'm very much looking forward to the conversation today. So Peter, do you have any questions? Anything you would like to say before we get started?
Thank you very much for the invitation, Jay, and I'm also really happy to be here, and I'm interested in the discussion indeed.
Okay, great. All right, Jaromir, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, and you can go through your presentation, and then we'll kind of open it up for conversation at that point.
Okay, so thank you. So I'll try to share my desktop to show the presentation.
Great, I can see it.
Yeah? Okay, Thanks, Jay, for introducing me. Just to add that I worked for a CZ.NIC Czech domain registry since the year 2006. I started as a sort of development leader for the new registry software that we later named FRED and make it open source and available for other people. And since about 2010, I work as a chief technical officer, so I have a little bit broader responsibility, also not just the development of the software, but the running the system and managing system engineers and all the production software that we are running. So I'm slightly moving from doing the real stuff to management issues. But still, as Jay said, I was at the beginning of development of the FRED, so I'm still quite involved in some architectural decisions that we have to make when doing continuous development of the system. So I have about 14-15 slides about FRED. Mainly what it is, where it is used, what are the interfaces of the software, what are features, and what is some latest development regarding FRED system. And at the end, I will share some statistics from our system. I will try to talk about ENUM also because it was the one of the goals at the beginning to have a registry that will support ENUM, and after we can talk about FRED, and well, you can ask questions and we can continue the discussion. So FRED is an acronym for a free registry for ENUM and Domains. It's just a fancy acronym that we selected, and it's a set of tools that we use for managing our domain registry. It's created in many languages like C, C++, and Python, to name them. It's all based on open source tools, so it works on Linux. It uses PostgreSQL database and many other open source components like Apache Web Server, OmniOrb Corba system, and others. And the source code is available for download on the website fred.nic.cz. So anybody can download it, install, and start to use. The website is not quite updated. Usually I update new sources, but new source code, but I guess that we should do some better job in updating also documentations, but this is always on the tail of development, unfortunately.
You're not alone in that, Jaromir. Everybody wants their website to be better. So,
I guess so.
No problem.
So here you can see different deployments of the system from the beginning. We started to work on FRED at the end of 2005, and in the autumn of 2006 we launched the system for ENUM domain associated to us and associated with our regional country prefix 420 for Czech Republic, and we thought about it as a sort of prototype or demo, or no, not demo, but the testing phase of the system. So we could be prepared for migration of .cz domain, which happened a year after, in autumn 2007, where we actually took the database of the old legacy system from the company that was outsourcing our registry at the time. We did a migration from the old data model to FRED data model, and we successfully started to use FRED for .cz domain. Because we were able to have a multiple level domains in the system, immediately when we released the system as open source, many other countries started to use it, and the same year there was one company that was owning subdomain co.cz that took FRED and started to use it as a registry for second level domain. And then also the other countries started to look around the FRED and asked us to help them with the installation, namely Angola at the beginning, then Tanzania. In 2010 there were even more countries: Faroe Island, Costa Rica, and even Estonia, which was quite surprised for us, because I think that Estonia is quite developed country, on the contrary of the others, which are just small countries where the people are managing registry usually in Excel file and editing directly DNS zone file or on config files of DNS servers. So, but Estonia, with all of them, their enhanced technologies, decided to use our system. So that was a big was good for us that they selected the system. And during the last 2 years, some other European countries, Albania and Macedonia, started also to use FRED. So now it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 countries where FRED is used. And what's interesting is that different countries decided to use FRED in many different ways. Some countries that are using so-called 2R model, which means that there is just a registry and registrants. So domain owners, registrants, directly go to registry and buy domains. While in registries that adopted 3R model, there are registry, registrar, and registrant, which means that registrants don't communicate directly with the registry. They ask for domains registrars, and registrars are companies that allow to register multiple domains. So they communicate with many registries. So in small registries that don't have registrars, like Costa Rica and Faroe Island, they just created some web front end on top of FRED that allowed the direct registrations of domains. So still, domain owners went to the website of the registry and registered domains the same way as before, but on the back end, the FRED was used to automate all other stuff like zone file generation and things that I will talk about later. And but in a more advanced countries where registrars were already established, they took advantage of FRED and they started to do some modifications. For example, Estonia modified the core registry protocol, EPP protocol. They added a new commands and a new parameters to commands. Albania created new type of contacts. Tanzania, they created their own management of credit. So this, I think, shows that while it's quite complex system, many countries can do different modifications to the registry.
Jaromir, I'm going to stop you for just a moment there because unfortunately we're getting some packet loss and it's the audio's a little broken up here, and I just want to repeat what you just went through because I think it's very important. Basically, you're saying that there are two countries, Costa Rica and the islands, that are using FRED in a fashion where people can directly register their domains. They're not going through a registrar arrangement. And then the rest of the countries are using three levels, which is the registry, the registrar, and the registrant levels. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, great. And then, so like, is it Tanzania that has credit management, which is part of the FRED platform? And I didn't quite get the EE identity document in EEP, that part.
Well, I can explain that the problem of Estonia is that they very much care about the identity of the registrant, and in the case when so they provided possibility when the registrants connects to registrar and pay some money for a domain to registrar. Registrar has some information about the identity of registrant from the bank account of the transaction. So they can download the document from the bank transaction which identifies registrants, and they when they communicate to registry using EPP protocol, they include this document, this PDF file, as a parameter of the transaction. So the registry receives some document which validates the identity of the registrant because it's obtained from the bank of that processed the transaction. So that's basically the change they did.
Great. Okay, thanks. That clears it up. So a big piece of the identity management, and that's the EE is for Estonia. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they are very concerned about identity management of the registrants, and they're using the banking information as a key component of the identity management, which I think is a very interesting application. So, okay, great. Thanks. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on those points. So, please continue.
Okay.
I'm actually wondering what's the main use case in these countries for using FRED. These are mainly web domain registration, right? So it's not really ENUM specific registrations.
Yes, I guess that none of these registries is using ENUM technology.
Yeah. All right, I'm guessing too. Yeah, all right, thanks.
Yeah, so it's mostly domain registrations versus ENUM. The ENUM part, which we can get into later, has sort of, I would say, kind of dormant. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that
it's kind of dormant since 2012, if I'm understanding where things are at.
yes.
Most of what you're doing with FRED and these 8 or 9 countries are doing is with internet domains versus ENUM registrations.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. And I apologize to everyone about the packet loss. I'm not sure if it's my Wi-Fi connection or where it is in the system, but we can understand you, Jaromir. It's just a little bit choppy. So.
Okay.
It is fine for me, so it must be you then, Jay.
Okay, great.
Although we're both in Europe, so.
Yeah, and it works okay for me as well.
Okay, good. Okay,
I
great.
hear you all quite perfectly, so it's a
Awesome.
bit.
Hopefully on the recording it'll be better. So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So next slide is about the data structure of the core registry objects. So the main registry object, of course, is a domain, and there are some other objects associated with domain. It's contacts and name server sets and key sets. Contacts can be in the role of administrating contact and the owner of the domain, the registrant. So every domain has one registrant and multiple administrative contacts. They have slightly different roles or permissions in the system, but it's basically for solving the ownership issue and for a communication with these contacts. When some events happen, we send them some information. A name server set is a collection of name server hosts, because the main thing of the domain registry software, the main goal is to generate zone file for DNS system. So the output of the registry is a DNS zone file, which is constructed from the information about the domain name and information about the name servers that the domain is delegated to. So this is the information about domain and about name servers. This is the core for DNS system, the DNS that feature of the registry. And since we introduced the DNSSEC, which is technology that secure DNS in many ways, we also added object called keyset, where DNS key material is stored, and we include the information about keys to the DNS zone file. I will not go too much into detail. The DNSSEC is based on the asymmetric cryptography, where lower level domains, for us, let's say second level domains, they sign all the DNS information with the key, with private key, and they put public key into the DNS to upper level. So for us, they store it right here. And there is a chain of trust up to the root, so anybody can verify whether information received from DNS is correct. So this is the structure of data in the registry, and there are some key interfaces of registry solution. As I mentioned, one, the EPP, it's an extensible provisioning protocol, which is the standard for communication between the registrars and the registry. So this protocol contains information on commands like create domain, update domain, delete domain, create contact, delete contact, and things like this. And there is a standard, so it's supposed that any registry providing that interface will be easily contactable or easily connectable with any registrar. However, probably every registry decided to do some minor modifications to suit their policy, and we also did some extensions to the registry. Mainly, name server sets and key sets is our own extension. However, we created also a Python library and some command line tool that we provide to all registrars. So it's quite easy to connect to Fred server using that command line client or embedding that Python library into their own systems. So this is EPP. The second important interface is a WHOIS, because we are a registry, a sort of public registry in some meaning that allows that we share some information from the registry for public. Public can see who is the owner of the domain, and if the owner disclose some information, there can be information how to contact that person, for example. We also have some internal web administration interface to our staff, for our staff, that can look up into what's going on, who is the owner of the domain, what is the payment status of the domain, things like this. And of course, the DNS zone file generator is a main component of the registry that creates the zone file, and this zone file with all the domains and all the delegations is then transferred to all our DNS server that we administrate. Some key features of our registry. Of course, ENUM, we already mentioned. We had to do some modifications to the registry to be able to work with ENUM, mainly.
Jaromir, have you advanced the slide to 8?
Yes.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I think we're in sync. Okay, great.
Okay.
Please continue.
These modifications that were driven by ENUM features were mainly registration of arbitrary number of labels in domains. That ENUM domain is has a very deep level, and we even need to register subdomains of already registered domains. So the changes that we did was that we allowed this possibility to register domains and subdomains in a configurable level of depth. And the other modifications that we did was to add validation date. Standard domain in a domain registry has an expiration date, which means this is the date that you paid for. For example, you can buy the domain for a year, so we have to maintain that the expiration date of the domain is a year from now. But with the ENUM, we thought or we found out that there is a necessity to associate another date with the domain. That means that for this period of time, the number belongs to you or to the domain owner, because the numbers are distributed in the different usually by different organizations, like some telecommunication agencies, and there can be a situation when, or by our law, there is a smaller period of time that this ownership is checked. In our country, it's I think 6 months. So we decided to revalidate this ENUM domains every 6 months. That every 6 months the registrar must provide us information that the domain, or not the domain, the number that is associated with this ENUM domain still belongs to domain owner. So registrar must actively update the validation date for another half a year to continue for this domain to be still working. So these are some changes that are specific for for our registry because the ENUM technology.
And that's, excuse me, Jaromir, is that specific? That's specific to the Czech Republic for the ENUMs? Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure whether it is specific because I don't know the situation in other countries, so I can't say. I really don't know.
I think it is specific for the golden enum tree. There's the recommendation of RIPE and CC to revalidate the numbers every 6 months.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is not necessary for our tree, the enrenum.net tree, for instance.
Okay. Thank you, Peter.
So that's probably the reason.
Okay, great.
So some other features that we have in the registry, the IDN, which is the possibility to have non-ASCII characters in the domain names. We have this feature in the registry, however, we are not using it ourselves because we decided to leave the decision whether we will allow the domains with Czech special characters, hooks, and accents on the users, on the community, and we do every 2 years a survey whether the community wants us to allow these types of domains, and every 2 years we receive the answer, no, we don't want this, we are afraid of that. So the thread system allows to have these IDN domains. However, I don't think that we don't use it, and I don't think that some other countries is using it. So it's a feature that is not well tested yet, but I guess it works. And I mentioned DNSSEC. It's a must-have feature for DNS right now with the security issues. So we also adopted this feature in the registry. Some other core features. There is a billing because we provide we are charging registrars for their registrations. So there is possibility to have prepaid model and postpaid model for domain registrations and renewals. We have some subsystem for delegation checks where we check whether delegation is correct. We check the reachability of DNS servers of our of domains that are registered in our system, and we send the emails with the result of these checks to technical contacts of the domain. We have a feature called Registry Logs, which is a security feature in the 3R model where we don't have a direct channel to registrants, but we still want registrants to feel secure, and if they are afraid that the registrants or registrars can do some unwanted changes, they can put a lock on their domain directly in a registry after some authentication, and then if the domain is locked, it's not possible to do any changes with the domain. This is reaction for some recent security incidents when registrars' systems were hacked, for example, and through hacked registrar systems, it was possible to change the information for about the domain in the registry, and many times, like the Google domain was stolen, for example, or redirected to some other website. So important domains can be locked with this feature. And the last one, we have a complex system for notification of registrants and administrative contacts about any changes in data, about important events like domain is going to expire, or it's disabled and things like this. So contacts are notified about these events. And short information about the latest changes over the last year or two. We mainly concentrated on contact data validation because we are in a 3R model, and all the data that we receive about the contact is through registrars, and they have to validate the data, but they are not doing that. So we implemented a lot of feature concerning checking of emails, phones, postal addresses. We are trying to allow registrants to validate their data by sending some one-time codes to email, via SMS to phone, and via letters to postal address. And if we receive all these codes back, we mark the contact as a validated or data as a valid. So there's quite a lot of work that we did regarding this validation, and also we did some rewriting regarding administrative blocking, because we receive more and more requests from different law enforcement agencies that some domains must be suspended and or disabled because of some legal issues. And we usually did this manually, but it's the quantity is so big that we have to rewrite it to be more user-friendly for administrators to do that easily. And the last feature is a new WHOIS protocol, because the old WHOIS protocol is really old and doesn't have all features that are requested by community. And the answer for these problems, like the lack of structured data, lack of authentication, possibility of doing redirects. There is a new protocol created by IETF, which is now under standardization, and the name is RDAP, Registration Data Access Protocol. And we also implemented this protocol into FRED. And so last two slides is about some statistics. This is just statistics or graph of number of domains that we have currently, CZ domains in a registry. It's about close to 1.2 million. And maybe you can see quite a big change in 2007 when we started to use FRED, and we make the system more friendly when the growth of registrations went up, and it's still growing in quite a fast manner. And the last slide is just specifically for ENUM domains. This is the number at the end of each year. So we started in 2006, and we had a peak of ENUM domain in the year 2008. Was almost 5,000 domains. However, at the end of or at the beginning or in the middle of 2010, I will guess, some of our registrars started to support this feature, and left it completely, and deleted all their domains. So the number went immediately down, and there's just a few of domains right now in the registry. As you can see, there are still some, and even in there is some growing trends over the last 2 years that there are, so it's not declining, but it's really a small number, mainly because the registrars that supported ENUM in the years 2007 or 8, they were also voice over IP operators, and they had some policy that they registered every number that they provide, but probably there was no business demand for that for the technology, so it slowly disappeared. And unfortunately, we are not even ourselves promoting it right now. We still have the possibility to register domains. There is one or two registrars that you can use to register Czech ENUM domain, but uh, it's not marketed, it's not promoted, so I actually don't know what will be the result, but as we discussed with Jay last time, that for the user ENUM, there's a big problem with the business case, with the usage for the domain owners. So probably this will slowly decline, and if the ENUM has some perspective, it's in other usages, like infrastructure ENUM, for example. So this is the end of my presentation.
Great. Thank you, Jaromir. That's very, very good. That you've really touched upon some key elements. And Henning, you have a question, so I'll let you go ahead and start it off. You might be on mute, Henning. Okay. Can't hear Henning right. Oh, there he is. Okay, go ahead. I think you're still on mute, Henning. Can't hear you. Are you on mute on your computer? I know we could hear you a few minutes ago.
You just...
There we go. Now we can hear you.
I had put myself on Chromecast, and I guess that didn't work with microphone. So two questions. One is just a mechanical one, just curious because we have a similar related issue on a very different topic. How well is the validation service for postal and SMS and so on working? If somebody doesn't validate, do you cancel their registration, or what happens?
So to answer that question, it's completely voluntary. So we are trying to do the opposite. That means that if somebody validates, we send him a gift, a flash drive or something like that. So this is sort of the way how we would like to make the database validated.
Okay. So do you mark in the Whois or RDAP, do you mark the information as validated if it is validated?
Exactly. Yeah. There is some status like verified data.
Oh, okay, good. And do you, just as a rough estimate, what fraction of your registrations are validated?
Well, we started this quite new project. We started that during the last year, so it will not be a big percentage. I would guess it's 1 to 10, not more than 10%. So we actually do this voluntary validation, and we also do another validation that we do, let's say manually or semi-manually, that the automated system selects some contacts in a registry, checks these contacts against some databases of streets, and checks for a syntax of email and syntax of phone. And if there is some problem, we put this contact into the queue that is processed by a real person, operator on the help desk, and these people are trying to check again whether the data may be incorrect, and contact them, trying to contact them. and if in this mode, if they will fail to reach that contact, we are able, or we are allowed to delete the domain. So we send an official letter, and after 1 month, 2 months, if they will not respond, then we can delete the domain. But these are like two different ways of validation of data.
So have you actually deleted any domain because of that?
Some, just like a couple of domains per year.
And the other one is, you mentioned the ENUM. You said there was really no business case for that. Is it because the different voice over IP providers don't need it to interconnect using ENUM? They just do something else to do the routing between them, or how do you know how the voice over IP providers are interconnecting without ENUM?
Well, actually, it's a hard to answer this question, because I at the time when ENUM was on the grow, I was doing more technical stuff, so I was not involved in a business communication with the registrars. However, I remember that the things that we always discussed, that the problem of ENUM is that if I as a user with my phone number will register my my phone number in the ENUM, I don't have any advantage from that. All other people take advantage of that. If they are trying to call me, they can have a free call, or let's say they will use the voice over IP. However, me as a phone owner, the number owner, the domain owner, I don't have any advantage from this registration. So I guess that this is one of the problems that voice registrars or voice over IP operators were not able to convince people to use ENUM, to put their numbers in the ENUM.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Very interesting. I'll wait, see if anybody else has any questions.
Peter, do you have any questions?
I have a couple of comments and questions, yes. So my comment to the last topic is that, as probably Jay, you mentioned, we are running the ENUM.NET service, which is an end-user ENUM service for a sort of special or closed community, which is research education. So pretty much the model is the same as Jaromir explained, that there is no real business benefits here. But the fact that we are a community and we are basically leverage on the fact that universities or research institutes can be called by others, and those and the cost benefit is actually on the other end, on the callee end. So that's the community aspect and a community effort behind the ENUM service that we are running. So I fully agree with the statement that were made, but it probably doesn't work in a commercial environment, but it works very well for us in this not-for-profit research education sector. So that's
Great.
common. And a question. So there are two things. There is the software tool itself, and there is the service, right, that you are running by using this software. So my question is related to the software. You mentioned two things that are ENUM specific. One was if I remember correctly, the domain depth with the subdomains that you allow, and the other one is actually the validation date or a process for validation. I'm just wondering whether do you have any automated procedures already built in for validation or revalidation of domains? Because ENUM is specific in a sense that the domain that you want to validate is basically the way how you reach the end user, right? Because that's the phone number eventually. So that's what the end user registers as a domain name, and that's what you have to validate. In case of a normal web domain, you probably don't validate the domain itself, whether the domain is there or available. You want to validate the contact details of the registrar, right? But in this case, in case of ENUM, that's kind of a complex case because you validate the actual domain because the way how you reach the end user is via the domain, right?
Yes. So we did a clever solution for that. That we leave we leave the process of validation on registrars. So we said that we provide the interface. We updated EPP protocol, and we added the possibility to mark domain as a validated, and we put in our rules that registrars must do the validation, and when we ask, anytime when we ask, they must provide us the information that they did that validation. So it's a sort of like bypassing or workaround of the problem, but that was the only solution that we found out. So so this is actually how we did that. I even don't know if we any time asked registrars to provide us the information, but this is that would probably come handy in if we would be asked by a regulator or some telecommunication agency to provide the validation. We would just check if the registrars specifically updated the validation date, which means that they sign that they did the validation, and then we would ask registrars to provide us the all documentation.
All right. Yeah, I understand your procedure, which relates to the service. I was just wondering whether it's supported by the software itself, but I understand that probably we could recommend some developments there. And my other question is related to the subdomain, the depth of the subdomains. Is this a parameter in the software that you can configure, so you know how deep the subdelegation could be?
Sure. Every domain has a database table with the parameters of minimum depth and maximum depth that can be used. Like for us, we have 9 numbers. Yes, 9 numbers for all numbers of Czech country. So we configure that only these limits are available for ENUM domains.
All right, that's handy. Yep. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. So, Jaromir, I think this is really valuable information on your actual, real life experience with enums as well as internet domains and the validation issues and the billing issues and all that. And if I'm correct, you have several presentations on the Fred site that you've done over the last few years that go into great detail on your billing, on your security, and other elements. Is that correct, in case people want to go into even more depth?
Exactly. That's a little bit we are trying to we know we should have more documentation than we have right now. However, during the presentations that I'm doing about Fred, at least I reveal some more details about the system in the presentation. So I'm putting all these presentations on the website so people can find some information there.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very helpful.
I'm wondering whether you're aware of any commercial tools on the market which are sort of competitors to your Fred software.
Well, I'm not aware about any commercial. Well, usually, if there is right now, you maybe are aware about all these new GTLD program and many new top-level domains that emerged during the last 2 years. So there are many companies that provide a registry solution as a service, but they usually do not provide a software. They want to have a business on that, so they have their own system, their own software,
All
and they don't provide the software. There are some open source, let's say, competitors on this field. There is mainly a tool called Coca, which is a Java tool used for as a registry solution by many African countries, but I don't think it supports ENUM. I don't want to lie, but I've never heard about this feature in this. It's mainly for a classical web domain registry registries.
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty much interested in the ENUM features that you mentioned, and I would be happy to discuss with you further on these features, because it seems that we could potentially recommend FRED as a tool for our ENUM registries in various countries. So in the service, we have about 30 countries at the moment. At least 10-15 of them are actively managing and registering numbers, and as you said in the beginning, it's mostly a manual process via Excel tables and manual configuration changes and the DNS server itself. So such kind of tool that supports registrations and the usual work of registries would be really handy for them. So I would be happy to even try a demonstration of your tool, and maybe offer this as an option for our registries.
Okay. Well, we can. I think that Jay has an email, or in the presentation there is an email address, so feel free to contact me with any questions.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's part of what's available here, is to continue to have this conversation about, what's out there, what's available, how can we work together, how can we collaborate, and, move the whole initiative forward. One thing that I would like to mention is this Friday on the VoIP user conference, the VUC, if you go to VUC.me, FreeSwitch will be there, as well as Jitsi, and a new initiative that's called matrix.org, which is an attempt to try to sort of a ubiquitous connectivity feature. They're positioning it like, make all your communications as compatible as email is. So it's not exactly ENUM, but it's sort of hinting at some of the use cases and value propositions. So this Friday, they will be presenting along with FreeSwitch and Jitsi, and I think that's quite interesting. I was hoping to get some of the folks from FreeSwitch on today, but again, it is kind of a semi-holiday. So, my question for you, Jaromir, is if you had it to do over again, what would you do differently with FRED, if anything?
Well, it's probably with any kind of software, there were many architectural decisions that we did that we now see that we will probably do differently. No, but it's more my concern in this topic is more about the software, about the internal structure. Like for example, we are using that software, that technology called Corba, which is quite aged, and not many people understand that, and it's not probably necessary to use this messaging RPC technology for our components to communicate to each other. So maybe I would decided not to use it right now. or maybe some other decisions about different organization of components of the system to be more individual. Like my idea about Fred is to be some sort of like small sub, like with the individual components for billing, individual components for messaging, individual components for DNS generation, so, and make it even more modular. It's quite modular comparing to some other systems, but I would like to have it even more modular, and these components to be more reusable in other projects, for example. So these are some architectural decisions that were made at the beginning, and at the beginning, and it's quite hard to change it now, but we are still trying to do that.
Okay, great. All right, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, one additional just clarification question, namely for the ENUM, you're using EPP for that as well?
Yes.
And that's working relatively well for you? I mean, for that type of application, it seems like it's essentially the same, but I'm just curious if there's if you discovered anything, since it wasn't originally designed for that, if you discovered any problems using EPP for the ENUM application.
No, I'm not aware about any. That for registrars that were also ENUM registrars, they have the single interface for ENUM domains and .cz domains, and it worked well all the time.
As a general, since I'm not as tuned into the registrar operation, is EPP seen as, well, it's been around for a few years now, as kind of in line of Jay's previous question, namely, is it seen as if we were to do it again, it's pretty much what we would end up with, or is it like, well, we got it, but it's like you said, like Corba, it's a little dated now. You would do it differently if you were to redesign it.
Yeah, I understand. I think there are some attempts to do it or do it differently. Mainly, for example, it's the EPP is based on direct TCP communication and XML format of messages.
Mm-hmm.
And most recent protocols are constructed in the way that it's based on HTTP, and they are using REST attitude, and they are using JSON as a data structures. So there are some attempts. I think that if the protocol would be developed right now, it would be HTTP service using JSON and REST commands. So, and there are some attempts that people are trying to suggest something like that, but I don't know if they will be successful or not.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah, that is very helpful. Okay, any last comments or questions? Well, I would like to thank the three of you for participating. This was recorded. It will be available on the PHONEWORD.com website under the PHONEWORD forum. I think this is a very, very valuable conversation. I'm grateful for the three of you to have this conversation. What's coming up with the PHONEWORD forum is on December 31st, we will have the open session, which is sort of a recap of what's transpired over the year, just sort of a general session open to any comments, questions, what have you. In January, we have Dr. Robin Hanson of George Mason University, who's scheduled to be with us, and we're going to be talking about market-based security possibilities, which is, I think, is very interesting, and I think there's some interesting applications that could be applied within the realm of both internet domains as well as ENUM and so forth. So that's what's on the immediate horizon. In addition, we are working the PhoneWord workshops, which is a an experiment and a pilot program in how to fund open source development and how to create an ENUM platform collaboratively. So I invite you to tune into that. That's at PHONEWORDworkshops.com. And we've had the first pilot program, and I think it went very, very well. So we should be kicking that up after the Thanksgiving holiday, and we're getting feedback from invited sponsors at this point. So that's basically what's on the horizon, and I think there's some very interesting developments that are happening. The numbering test bed here in the United States has sort of restarted, and there's conversation going on the distribution list, and it applies, some of the conversation applies directly to what we discussed today in terms of configuration and alternatives. So I very much appreciate the three of you being on the session today. Tomorrow is the holiday in the United States for giving thanks, and personally I think, well, at least personally I have a lot to be thankful for. So any other last minute comments or questions?
Well, thanks for organizing. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Henning. Thank you,
For
Peter.
organizing this. Yep, thank you.
Bye now.
Thank
Enjoy
you
your
very much.
Black Friday as well.
That's right, Black Friday.
Not sure I'm thankful for that one. So.
Get your finger on your buy button early. So, all right.
Bye now.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. So thank you, Jay. It
All
was
right.
nice.
Thank you.
And happy Thanksgivings.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.